Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Third Space Podcast, episode number 67, Concision Incision. A lot of S's in there. Concision Incision is a new segment that Daniel came up with. He was really proud of the title and the tagline, so I'll make sure to get the tagline exactly right. He described it as questions that cut deep in time that's cut short. So essentially, it's a segment where he peppers me with somewhat deep, personal or philosophical questions, and I have to answer in at least a reasonable amount of time. We maybe they take a little bit longer than we wanted, but it's still pretty natural, and I found it to be a fun and enjoyable segment. We also talk about Halloween some at the beginning, since we're in the month of Halloween, and you can hear me complain about various Halloween-related things, as I'm wont to do, and that is the podcast. So, without further ado, I'll start our wonderful AI jingle. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast, Third Space Podcast.
Good morning.
Hello, Bennett.
Hello. Hello, Daniel.
Isn't that charming?
Yes. Man, these are some of my first words of the day. You're getting my first words are being recorded today.
Well, how often do you wake up and like declare by yourself? You know, I mean, you
Pretty
wake
pretty
up
rarely,
and,
pretty rarely,
Yeah.
I would say. But I do talk to myself, not conversationally, but just out loud sometimes throughout the day. So
I'm not opposed to doing that. I do that. I think I'll be deep in thought, and maybe I'm going over what I'm going to say to a student or my wife, and I won't even realize I'm practicing a particular line out loud or hearing how it sounds. I don't think I will say this out loud. I'll be deep in thought and realize I've said a particular part of this thought out loud. So yeah.
yeah, if we wouldn't have done the podcast today, I have nothing else happening today, but I would still I would speak some, I think so.
I wonder that though. Yeah, if you would just, what's the longest you could go without speaking?
I've wondered
without
that
thinking
too.
about it.
I tried to
you made it past
estimate.
noon.
I've thought about that before. Like, I wonder what's the longest period of time I've gone without speaking, and it's probably over 24 hours. It's probably between 24 hours and 48 hours.
Like unintentionally, you're saying it wasn't like
not a vow of silence or anything like that.
Right.
But
You just didn't. There
just
was not a need
happened to not speak. And it's probably somewhere in that range.
Wow, I'm really tickled at the idea of like maybe though there were a few utterances playing video games of like, "Damn Goombas" or something. Like that's all you have in 24 hours. Here's the transcript of it.
That probably is the number one silence breaker. On those times.
Anyway,
it is October now. It is the month of Halloween. I want to ask you, when is it acceptable to start putting up Halloween decorations?
I can't believe you're asking this because Danielle woke me up today and it's like, "Get out of bed," and I'm like, you could tell she's a little bit tickled, and she's taken all our. We have like like 4 or 5 items, nothing fancy, like some cobwebby looking stuff, some bats, and like a cookie jar, and a few pumpkins that are like porcelain, actually kind of nice looking, and she's put them out, and she was like, "It's October 1st."
Oh man!
so you're asking?
Oh man, my intro is not gonna go over well.
I find that October 1st is like a very acceptable, like it is full in, like let's start watching horror movies, all of that. When we were moving recently, we went to Michael's. I forget why, to be honest. Anyway, there was just they had like 2 months ago put out all the their Halloween stuff. So but that's just of course they have sort of a capitalistic incentive, like to get every business would love for us to get on board earlier.
Yes.
Just a longer selling season. So, but like on a personal scale, I do think October is like like I get it. I like horror movies. I've always been a fan of horror movies, and like today when I saw those decorations, like, oh yeah, it's October 1st. Let's start watching horror movies this month. Because I like to I burn out on them, and I need a break, and I've had my break, and now I'm back ready. So that's my thoughts. Really, October 1st is fine. It is a fine time. Would I personally do it? I mean, I don't personally I wouldn't personally do a whole lot for Halloween. So,
Yeah.
I'm not impassioned by it. So, like, if Danielle gets excited about it, I'm all for October 1st being fine. But if she were to go too hard with it and, like, want to, like, go over the top and completely revamp the home, I would be kind of like, it's October 1st. Let's chill out for a second. We got a while, Like,
Yeah.
anyway.
I think I think the most reasonable time is about around October 31st.
The day of Halloween to
Well,
make it
Halloween is All Hallows Eve, right? All Hallows evening. And so the holiday is actually just in the evening of October 31st. So maybe the morning of October 31st, it's acceptable to put out your Halloween decorations.
You concede,
I'll concede part of the day.
Getting ahead of yourself.
Getting ahead of, well, before sunset anyway, before it's evening time. I mean, it's not, but doing it on October 1st, I think is ridiculous. You said it's very reasonable, as if, mid-September would be your point where you would be like, that's a little early. But to me, October 1st is ridiculous. October is already 31 freaking days long. And you're going to be sitting there with pumpkins and stuff out. So some people try to do this. They try to say, oh, it's just fall. It's fall decorations. It's not Halloween. It's fall. And so they put their pumpkins everywhere. And
That's what these pumpkins are not. They're not ghouly pumpkins.
Yeah,
they're
there's normal pumpkins. Yeah. And that's a loophole. And I kind of look at that and go, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. But whatever. But if you got skeletons out, like, there's no excuse.
We have bats.
Bats and skeletons and stuff. Halloween. Like, it's absolutely Halloween. It's not All Hallows Month. It's All Hallows Eve, right? It would have been called Hallow-Moon. If it was called Hallow-Moon and, for month, and it was all month, fine. Then put your stuff out all month. If there was a song called The 12 Days of Halloween, like there is the 12 Days of Christmas, which, by the way, Christmas, you're only allowed 12 days for decoration. If you go outside, if your decorations are up before December the 13th, then you're breaking the rules. And if they're still up on December 26th, you're breaking the rules. I like to drive around the neighborhood and honk just menacingly
at stuff over.
At people with their
not
decorations.
Break them, just pack them up.
Yeah, on December 26th, I do my neighborly civic duty and drive around and really just harangue people for having their decorations up. Christmas was yesterday.
Guy.
Yeah, right. I know. I do what I can.
What a good citizen. What a dutiful person.
Anyway, if I had to if I have to really, I'm being a little bit, just a little bit slightly, I'm exaggerating a tiny bit, but I would say truly a week before Halloween, seems reasonable, but
I think particularly Halloween, I can get burnt out on the aesthetic because it's often violent or scary or whatever, or the sort of commercialized version is tacky and boring, like some giant mummy or whatever, inflatable. I just kind of grow tired of it quickly.
That's another part of it, right? Like a lot of our holidays are meant to honor something or celebrate an event, and Halloween is truly just a vapid holiday. And so the fact that people stretch it out for an entire month makes me think what's going on there? Like you're not even celebrating anything. This is just your excuse to what? What?
At least culturally, not. If anything, if you really are celebrating it, it could be dark. You're kind of getting into the darker side of the spiritual world or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if you're not, clearly culturally, it's just fun horror movies and stuff. And
I think the whole reason that I brought this up is because I was walking around my apartment complex and. 2 weeks ago, this was on September the 16th or something like that, and I saw they were already putting out the cobwebs on there, balcony with the spiders and everything, and one person put a skeleton sitting on their balcony with orange lights shining at it. And I'm like, what's going on here? It's September. Like we have 6 weeks until or more until Halloween, and they're already going nuts. Like, and it made me think, like, that's a red flag. I don't want to know these people. Like, it's a major red flag if you're decorating for, like, now that you told me that about Danielle, I'm a little concerned. Like, now I'm kind of
down a peg and...
I'm rethinking my approval of your marriage now. But I think it's a significant red flag to be nuts about Halloween. If you just find it fun and, want to put out your pumpkins and stuff, okay, whatever. It's not my cup of tea, but fine. But if you're like super into it, if you're an adult and if you're checking your community notice board to see if there are adult trick-or-treating venues, or if there are doggy treats and stuff.
Adult trick. It's more likely to take your dog trick-or-treating, I bet, as an adult. You're right, like in our current society, like dog trick-or-treating events. Does that exist? I'm
that
sure
exists because I saw that on our apartment little notice board or whatever by the mailboxes. Someone posted something about like doggy treat.
That's just gonna be like now you're expected to get your bag of like candy with mixed like whatever Milky Way and Snicker bars, and then like a bag of like doggy treats too.
I wonder how many dog deaths there are from people just being stupid and putting in
razor blades in the
regular candy chocolate like for dogs.
Oh yeah.
Or razor blades for the dogs.
Razor blades in the doggy food,
Yeah, right.
Kibbles and bits with like little drops of poison. I feel far less passionate than you about it. I mean, well, okay, I was actually just trying to test for me, I have like a limited stamina when it comes to excitement for a holiday, and my favorite by far is Christmas. I find it joyful. I find it's nice on all the levels, to
Except
me.
For the
like
music.
Just the spirit of, well, actually, I like it too, but that actually, the fatigue is severe with that. I'm like, okay, 2 days of it. I'm like, that was nice. I go from going, yeah, cool, I forgot these songs. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired of it. So, yeah, I fatigue quickly there. But I was just trying to think, what's the outer limits of reasonable? And I think without being thoughtful about it, just like about a month, like come December, you can decorate
if you're outside the. If you're outside the month of the holiday, then you are insane. Then you're insane.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Well, that's why you can get by with, I think, October 1st, and then November 1st you could, if you're a big Thanksgiving person, and then I think culturally the people that are really serious about Christmas put up their tree the day after Thanksgiving. Like that's a thing to do on that Black Friday or whatever.
People are crazy. People are crazy. I mean, all right. So, Christmas is the biggest holiday.
Yes.
So I give it a little bit more leniency. Like I said, 12 days. So
do you think with the general like kind of deconstructing spirituality in the United States, particularly Christianity and Christmas being so related to that, and like and Halloween has this sort of edgy,
I think it's related.
that there might be some elevation of Halloween, like because like those seem to be the two biggest, and some people enthusiastically seem to be pushing for Halloween with the subtext of.
Yes.
Christmas.
You're gonna push for Christmas that hard? Well, I'm gonna push for Halloween this hard.
Yeah, I distinctly get that vibe.
I do too. Yeah, I definitely. That's part of the red flag that I see is like, what's your motivation here?
Yeah, because do you really just love candy
and
costumes that much? Like, I mean, I don't know. But the adult parties I can see being illegitimate. You don't have like Halloween's become a party with alcohol for adults. Like that is a thing now. I mean, I guess it always has been, but it seems more of a thing. But I hadn't thought about like the dogs trick. Like we're gonna start to take, our culture has become more dog friendly. That's no secret. We had a whole podcast on it, and now we're gonna like interweave our holidays and stuff with it. And I'm just trying to think, like, what are you gonna do about? Are they gonna come out
dogs, man? Dogs are starting to really
calendars and stuff, like I could see that.
I don't want to take it out on the dogs, but they're really starting to piss me off. Like I had to take a trip for work this past week, and there was a freaking dog on our plane just barking. Yeah. Usually they're well behaved, when they're the the airport dogs.
Allowed
But
to-
this
yeah,
one
yeah,
was
yeah.
just freaking yapping. It was like having a baby on the plane crying, but it was a dog yapping. And then yesterday I
not
was
cool.
walking around and some little girl, 7 or 8 years old, had her dog, her giant, like, I don't know what kind of dog it was, some giant demon black dog on the leash walking it, and it was just like really aggressively barking at me and lunging while she's like 8 years old, straining on the leash trying to keep it from getting away. And I'm like, oh gosh, what's
Your
going
safety
on?
might have been in jeopardy. You're
What's
trying to
going on
decide.
here? And
is
she was
this
and she was
dangerous?
like grimacing and saying, he's friendly, while the dog is like and the dog like lunged at me, and I felt his like mouth on my leg, like he didn't
Wow.
like, bite down. I wasn't injured, but it was like, man, I better get away from this
Right.
dog. And
It wasn't a typical bark. You're saying it was a little more vicious, not just your. I feel
Yeah,
like dogs
did you
do have
hear
a
me?
generic
I
bark.
made the
Yeah,
noise.
you really.
I made the
you
noise
went-
exactly.
It was well, if that was it, because that is the okay. We've gone from to like there's something there's a distinct like elevation of I am going for it kind of.
Yeah, man. Freaking dogs and Halloween.
He's friendly.
It was funny though, because she was just like really straining with her tiny little body. He's friendly. He's friendly. And while the dog is
Imagine that like with adults and like a crying the baby's like going just complete tantrum and he's well behaved. He's well
yeah, right,
behaved.
exactly. Yeah, right. A 2-year-old like just
A fat person's just stuffing food in their face. I'm healthy. I'm healthy.
Yeah, wow, that's
I don't know
a funny thought, because I think there's a lot of that. I think we do have a lot of that.
I'm healthy.
I'm so healthy. Yeah.
I'm athletic. I'm athletic. Beating people. Anyway, there's just so many ways to tie that. All right. I have a segment for you.
Nice. I love segments. One of my favorite
I'm
geometric things.
I'm
Line segments.
I'm really tickled with the title of this, so I want this to wash over you.
Excellent. Excellent.
I'm calling this Concision Incision. Questions that cut deep and time that's cut short.
Oh, wow. That sounds like you really thought about that.
The rest of this is crappy, but I really these are not great.
Concision,
but that was a banger.
Concision, incision. All right.
Questions that cut deep and time that's cut short.
All right. So I guess that these are going to be like heavy philosophical questions, and I gotta give a pretty fast or
Yes,
abbreviated
essentially.
response.
I've
Okay.
ranged them from philosophical questions to deeply personal ones.
Oh,
Say
man.
deeply. I mean, I'm not asking you to. I mean, they're not easy. Like you might have to go and take a second. So my goal is not to make you have to knee jerk just blurt out something, but at the same time, our tendency is to sort of prolong and explore and poke around and spend. Any one of these we could probably do a podcast on if we
Right.
didn't. If I didn't sort of make it a little more pithy, pop, like keep it going kind of thing.
Yeah.
So with that said, here we go.
All right. I'll do my best. Being
right.
being kind of going all in is a little bit my shtick on the podcast. So
Exactly.
I think,
You declare. In fact, if anything, that's how our we separate in the fact that I'm always qualifying and a little timid to declare, or I want to like kind of say, well, what about I don't know, and you're just like, no, this is how it is. So
All right.
you're.
I'm going to lean
you're more
into it.
confident in that regard.
Going to be concise and incisive.
And they're not all. Some of these questions are even. It will anyway.
All
I
right.
was about to qualify my
Yeah, you
questions
were.
and doing.
Lay it
All right,
on
so
me.
number one, you've come to visit me, and I've given you the entrance code to my place and all of that, and we're excited, good mood, whatever. You've brought your stack of B movies, and you put in the code, which is my digital lock and whatever, and you come in, and I am on the couch just crying, hands in, like dramatic, like woo. I just want to know, what do you feel in that instant, and then how do you react? Like, yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting question. I'm alarmed. I'm like, who died? That's basically my immediate response is something terrible has happened in order for Daniel to be behaving in this extreme way that I've never witnessed before. Like something serious has happened. did his parents get in a car accident? Like, did Danielle, get in an accident? What's going on? I'm extremely concerned, alarmed, and I'm
Would you almost
immediately.
have an adrenaline rush? So do you
Yes,
think that would
absolutely.
actually
Yeah,
pump
no
through you?
question. I would immediately have an adrenaline rush and be in the mode of like, all right, what do I need to do here? Like, what's going on?
So
Obviously
physically, then, what are you doing? Are you like, yeah? What do you walk over to me? Do you like ask me a question? Like, what do you? You're almost stunned. I'm imagining you're stunned for a moment. I don't know.
yeah, probably a brief moment, but I mean, what else am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna walk in, put all of my stuff down, and be like, what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
Take my shoes off, put them in the shoe spot. Put
First,
all
go
put,
pee quickly.
yeah, put all my stuff in the basket or whatever is around. Because otherwise you would be upset with me.
What?
If I had all my stuff strewn around your place.
Yeah. Well, and so, how? So I'm interested that yeah, you're alarmed. Are you uncomfortable with my tears, or that's not even really factoring in the
That's a
equation?
secondary. It's a secondary concern. Later, I'll make fun of you about it, but in the moment, I would just be focused on whatever is actually the problem. And if it turns out that you're crying because your candle, wore down or the phonograph broke or something, then I'm gonna be, a little annoyed, and I will make fun of you for that. But
Yeah. Okay. Let's do that scenario. Is that you? Whatever it is that like you do not believe whatever I'm bawling requires that amount of like anguish. Like you were in this fundamental disagreement. Like so, like does the discomfort rise there immediately as you learn? I turn to you and I'm like, my car engine is broke, and I'm just so
I just
like
finished watching.
screwed.
I just finished
Yeah.
watching like The Fault in Our Stars movie or whatever, and it just really got to me. Yeah, no, I
This is
wouldn't.
almost unbelievable though. Like, yeah, but like,
Right?
yeah. Is there anger that comes about you, or
No,
concern about me and where I'm at mentally?
I don't
Like,
think
are you like,
so.
what the hell's wrong with Daniel? Like,
I would need more instances of this kind of ridiculous behavior for me to start thinking that, and I wouldn't be angry. I would be laughing. I would be laughing at you for that because that's just a very that would fit right into my stereotype of you, to be
okay,
overly emotional and cry at
yeah,
something
yeah.
something
What are your
something
thoughts?
lame.
Then more generally, what are your thoughts on grown men crying? Like, does that make you uncomfortable or not really? And like, should we like, is it just a people respond differently kind of thing?
I don't really have super strong feelings on this, believe it or not. Like, I think that men, there's this argument that seems to have broken out. I don't know over what time period, years. Should men cry or should men not cry? Some people say, oh, men have emotions too. They shouldn't bottle everything up. They should be comfortable crying. And others say, no, men should be strong and tough. And I guess that's kind of the more traditionally masculine view of men.
Yeah.
I tend to lean more towards the second. I certainly think that men are allowed to have emotions, but it's also men's responsibility to be strong, and to not let their emotions take control of them, because I think that can bleed out and affect other people around you, your family, for example. And so
I agree with that, but do you think crying is indicate or an indication that emotions have taken over you? Certainly, in the moment, it
partially,
is. It's sort of
partially,
like, yeah,
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 partially. Look, I don't think it. Look, I mean, men have emotions too, and men have strong emotions. I would certainly not fault any man for, crying when his parents die, for example. Like, that's just a reasonable thing, or when a child is born, or whatever. In these great momentous events in a person's life, it's okay to shed a single manly tear
yeah.
out of the eye. That's reasonable. Or the one
A
scene
single
in,
manly tear out of the eye.
yeah, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, the when that is wrapping up, when everyone bows, that's the only acceptable movie to shed a manly
Fair enough.
tear. So
All right, I'm gonna shift. When it comes to decorations and aesthetic sensibilities, do you
no,
genuine do you genuinely believe that people have varying degrees of sensitivities and responses, or do you believe it's mostly a social phenomenon? So, like, in other words, do you believe people decorate truly for themselves, or are they doing it to show something about themselves to others?
I think I probably don't. I would find it hard to believe that it's all a sham, right? So I definitely think that people have differing sensitivities and reasons for why they decorate. I think that
Yeah.
there are people who decorate not for themselves exactly, not because they enjoy having the live, love, laugh up on the wall, but because they're trying to create a vibe, as the kids say, in their home, and make it feel like a place that's lived in, that's welcoming and so on. And that's why they put the doormat down that says, whatever it says. Doesn't say go away like mine. It says something else.
Something
And
like
they,
welcome.
yeah, and they had the plants and the pumpkins in fall and all of that stuff. Some people, conversely, they probably do. It's all for them. They enjoy it. They put up the art that they like on their wall that they want to look at, and they paint their home in soothing colors that they find to be appealing, and so on. It's probably a mixture of both.
It's got to be, right? But I can't help but like if someone like you who's not particularly social and you're not particularly interested in decorating, and I just think there's a lot of overlap there. Although you do have like some paintings that have like personal value and do reflect, but I don't think you're trying to create a vibe in your home. I think it's kind of a simple, these are
No,
isolated items that I enjoy, and they are meant to be hung on walls because they are paintings, so that's
Yeah.
where they will go. Is that accurate?
Yes, I'm definitely function over form. The paintings serve a function because I like to look at them, and when I look at the painting that David painted on my wall, I always am happier, and I think that's the best art. And so it serves that function for me. It's not about
And it's about that particular piece of art. It's not walking into the room and that vibe you described. You're like, that doesn't. Is that foreign? Is that a foreign idea to you? Like, you intellectually understand vibes. You can walk into rooms and go, yeah, the impression I get walking into this room is X, Y, or Z. But like I don't know. I just was wondering if that was a foreign concept. Of like, there's no desire to create one in your
it's
home.
not
for
foreign.
you.
I just don't find it valuable in the same way
Okay.
that, like, if I was grilling a steak and I don't go out there and turn the steak to get the diamond pattern on it, the diamond
Yeah,
char
okay.
pattern. I don't do that
Yeah.
because I can't taste the diamond char pattern, and I literally don't care about it. I want it to taste good. In the same way, I don't care what kind of vibe my apartment gives off. I don't care. That doesn't make any difference to me. I care about the things that are in it and what they can do for me. That's
Yeah.
that's my view. And I understand that not everyone has that view. In fact, most people don't, I suspect.
Yeah. All right, next question. Could we, not should we, but could we abolish the concept of time? And I wanted to just play around with, like, how would we function in a productive society? Because obviously, like, we all exist on this presumably linear plane of time going on. But, like, let's say we stopped the whole clocks thing. But I could still call you and text you and go, wanna do a podcast. We could still obviously function and talk to each other. Could we abolish the concept of time?
We could try, but time exists. Like the sun still rises and sets, and we still have the moon periods, and everything. So like
How much do the moon periods matter? Like does it? What if?
I mean,
Anyway,
historically, a lot, right? I mean, like, that's how you determine what seasons are approaching when. Like, it does behoove you to know when winter is coming, right?
yeah,
if
we have
it-
some concept because we have the idea of months and
Right.
all of that.
I mean,
So
agriculture is still important to us. We're not post agriculture. We can't just eat nutrition pills, all the time. So farmers have to know when the harvest season is and so on. And that stuff just kind of spreads from there. So we cannot get away from the concept of time. We can get away from the concept of micromanaging our time. We could get rid of our clocks and everything. And certainly there are cultures that don't care about the time, more tribal cultures and that kind of thing.
Well, I'm just glad you said that about agriculture and stuff. I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking like, oh, well, if I'm a teacher and I need to have them in the room at 8 o'clock, that's hard to overcome. But other than a weekly, like 5 days a week, 2 days of rest, 5 days, 2 days, other than that, like, who cares? But of course, And then like you said, oh yeah, well about winter is coming. Like great, I like to know I'll need a jacket, but I'm also not an idiot. I can just go outside when it's cold and put on a jacket. But no, like there's a whole food matters, you know.
Yeah.
Food kind of matters. So needing
And how would
that
you know when
awareness.
Halloween is?
Yeah, how would I know to put out the decorations at
You
the
wouldn't know
appropriate
when.
time?
Yeah, you wouldn't know. So it would be a nightmare. A nightmare before Halloween.
Halloween. If you could recover one item from childhood, what would it be?
I'm not a very sentimental person, so this isn't that important to me. And I'm trying to think if there was any childhood item that got destroyed. Oh, I thought of something. My Sega Genesis, which I sold. I actually sold it at a pawn shop when I must have been fifth grade, or
Is this
maybe
in order to like buy the next
it was in
console,
order
the
to.
N64?
Yeah, it was in order to buy N64. I pawned my Sega Genesis and all of my games for it for some just terrible, stupid
Pennies
amount.
on the dollar.
Yeah, it must have been like $50 or something.
And you might have been given over 10 games or so, or maybe more.
I don't remember. Yeah,
Yeah.
something in that ballpark. And that was a dumb move. Now at that time, I didn't earn much money from my allowance, so it would have taken me months more to save up to buy the N64. So that's why I did it, because I wanted the N64 now, when my friends were getting it too. And that's why I did it. And so, it wasn't totally thoughtless, but I should have asked for more chores. My parents and other people would have definitely allowed me to, they would have let me do that, wash the dishes or do something else to make some more money so I could get the N64 and not sell my Sega Genesis.
Do you think we had a limited view as a kid? Like it's that kind of new is better, and now that there's a better system out there, that the older system is absolutely useless. Like why would you ever want to play a 16-bit game when a 64-bit game system is out there? And if I can acquire that, then previous things are just absolutely obsolete.
I didn't really think that. Like I still have my Super Nintendo. I didn't get rid of that, and I still have my N64, and I have all of the consoles that I've had at this point. But yeah, I still played Super Nintendo games even after I got my N64. Not as often, obviously.
Well, I'm just embarrassed to say that I thought of them as like it's like why would I ever play Super Nintendo? But my parents were the ones kind of encouraging. Just hold on to it. You might want to come back to it at some point. It could be cool or worth something one day or whatever. And like fine, whatever. And I was just short sighted, but I'm
Yeah.
glad they were a little more thoughtful about that. Okay, if or how about this? What are your thoughts on intellectual property? And is it weird? Because it's weird to claim ownership of a thought, and so and that's what's happening with intellectual property. No, it's my thought. Like, you can't have it. It's like, well,
Yeah. I've thought about this before, and I'm not well versed in copyright law or trademarking law or anything like that. So, a lot
nor
of
am I. I just think this ownership of a thought is odd. Like, no,
right,
like, don't we collaboratively construct on how much you've influenced me and what's mine and what's yours? It becomes
sure,
really vague really quickly.
yeah, but I can see the value of patents, for example, right?
Yeah.
Patenting an idea, and that's intellectual property. Now, you could say that okay, that if it's an invention, if it's a new rocking chair, then that's different than the idea of something. This particular plot in a story or these particular lyrics to a song, for example. Yeah, okay, I can see that being argued, but I don't really know. I don't. This is one of the areas where I don't really have a well versed, or I guess a well what's the stupid word I'm looking for? A very fleshed out opinion on it, because I could see it being abused either way. Like if we didn't have intellectual property, if we couldn't patent things or copyright things or trademark things, then you would have people stealing ideas left and right all the time, and there would be people who their skills are in creativity or invention and not in marketing or whatever. They would make a thing show it to some greedy person with some greedy amoral person. That person would then take the idea, rebrand it, and get rich off of it, and that's not right. And so that's kind of that's what intellectual property was made to prevent. On the flip side, there's also cases where companies or people will patent something and then never produce it, and it just sits on paper, never being a benefit to society or anything else. And they just guard it viciously to prevent other people from encroaching on that territory.
I've heard that like never rust, always sharp blades, but they've like Gillette and all those buy those patents up and just sit on them because that would put them out of business essentially. Things like that.
Right.
Like and the technology exists to do that, but like nope, we want our blades to rust and go bad, and you have to buy new ones. So
there are lots of kind of conspiracy theories about that. Like there's that one that I've seen about the steam engine, where some guy made a steam engine for cars that takes water. It runs on water essentially, and is just as good as a gasoline engine, which is probably BS. But whatever, he made that claim, and then the auto industry like murdered him or shut him down or something like that.
Or cures for any disease, really, versus the treatment and all the industry around that.
Yeah. So there's a danger in it. What do I, if you want me to back up and think philosophically, what do I think about owning a thought? I don't think you can, and I think in an ideal world, I just tend to lean in a more libertarian way. So if it was the Wild West, and if you had a thought, if you had an idea, you had to be the one to capitalize on it. That's at least just. If you have an idea for an invention, don't tell it to people you don't trust, and sign some contracts or something if you do share the idea, and make sure you put your effort into delivering on it. And if you don't guard it judiciously enough, then that's just the way it goes. But that's dangerous, and a lot of people can't do that. So I'm not saying that's the way. I'm not saying that's the best. The world would be best if things were like that. I'm just saying in an ideal world where everyone had all of those abilities, that would be best.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, you're on a hike, and it's a beautiful day, and you come across this cliff with a great view, but you're a little annoyed because you notice some people. Now these people, it's actually they're teenage boys, and you get that distinct sort of, the way they're talking, you're not hearing what they're saying, but the way they're laughing, it's just this distinctly like they're up to no good, and it's a little like, ugh, because I don't know how you feel exactly, but like that sort of uncertainty of teenage boys up to no good, like there's a little cause for alarm. And as you get closer, you're a little annoyed because you won't get to see the view because they're like occupying that cool spot. And it turns out like they're beside this cliff, and there's this weird little configuration where it looks like there's a bunch of frogs living in this little hole or like whatever. That's just like their home, and these boys are taking the frogs and they're just throwing them off the cliff like a mean-spirited teenage boys do, and they're just like giggling about it and whatever. What do you do in this scenario?
Oh man, what a crazy scenario.
I know it's stupid, but I'm saying it's like a mild violation of something moral going on. And like you're let's say the trail is close enough to that you're walking by and they've looked at you, and there's like there's an opportunity of whether you're gonna be like do anything or not. What do you do?
Yeah, I don't approve of this behavior. So I would probably intervene and say, "What are you guys doing? Stop throwing frogs. What do you just stop throwing frogs off the cliff?
Come on, man. Stop throwing frogs."
But like, would I intervene with force? No. Would I, jump in front, arms spread wide, jump in front of the frog hole and be like, get out of here, No.
Did you throw them off the cliff and say, "How do you like that?
How do you like it? How does it feel to be a frog now?" No. Well, maybe, but probably not. Yeah, so
shoot him a dirty look. Maybe that's all you do is go like.
No, I would do I would do more than just shoot him a dirty look or shake my head. I would say something. I would definitely interject myself into the situation and say, like, you guys are being stupid. Stop throwing frogs off cliffs. Like, it's not as cool as you think it is.
You might think you're really cool now, but you're not.
Just a bunch of frog tossers, you know.
Hooligans and frog tossers, you are. The lot of you. It's just two of them, by the way. I meant to say that. It's not like you're under a.
Oh, it's
you're
only
not
two of them?
physically intimidated. It's two of them throwing, and it's not like, and they're not like, they even seem, maybe when they pause and look at you, they're a little intimidated. So you're not under like physical threat here.
Right.
Does that up your interference, and you say
No,
cut it out? You're gonna,
that wouldn't make any difference because I would have my gun with me anyway, and so I wouldn't be physically intimidated by a group of frog tossing teens.
I don't know why that frog tossing teens.
Yeah, like, I mean, if I was, if you had a group of 6 or 7 teenage boys and they were really up to no good, the worst of the worst teenagers, then yeah, I guess there is some aspect of physical danger, but that wouldn't really. I just don't.
Because you don't want to be in a position of pulling out your gun either. Like, that's like, oh god.
Oh, of course
if you pull
never.
that out, yeah.
No, you never want to be in that position. I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't worry about that even if I was unarmed, and the fact that I would be armed would make it totally a non-issue, right? Like, I just wouldn't.
Right.
Yeah,
It
I
would
wouldn't
change
be
my
worried about
opinion,
that.
though, or if there were 8 of them viciously tossing them off, and they looked at me kind of like, "What you gonna do about it?" Would change. I might do nothing and just kind of shake my head and keep walking, try to do the dirty look. Versus 2 intimidated kids look like they've been caught. Like, uh-oh. That would be like, I would be more aggressive about, you need to cut that out. Like, I mean, I wouldn't go up and like take the frog out of their hand and like grab them by the wrist and go, "What the hell are you doing?" I wouldn't do that just because that seems inappropriate anyway.
Yeah.
But I would.
Yeah, I mean,
would change my response.
potentially, if I don't know, this wouldn't come into my mind immediately, but you could also pull your phone out and record them, and then post it later somewhere and say, look at these no good frog tossers. Their parents
Dox
need
them,
to
tell them give their addresses out.
Right. You could, but that's kind of the I don't know. I don't. It's kind of the Karen route, isn't that what they
Yeah,
say?
I really hate that. Yeah, I really don't know. I just really don't like this sort of recording thing. But there is a time and place for it, I suppose. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I like that. I like that question.
If you could eliminate one human emotion from existence, what would it be, and how might that change? What's the ripple effect of that?
One human emotion. This is a dangerous question.
Let's say you have to do one. Like, you have to eliminate an emotion.
That's really hard. All right, so your knee jerk goes to some negative emotion like rage, or maybe like depression. Would you call
you want fear? You clearly want fear, right? Like,
Yeah.
we need that to
you want
avoid dangerous
you want
situations.
fear, you want anger.
Rage is pretty good.
Rage is, I think, sometimes you might even want rage. I guess there's the question: when does anger turn into rage? And that's kind of hard to answer.
You still
Depression.
operate logically under anger. I think rage is when your logical system is shut down, like
Yeah.
bypassing the prefrontal cortex.
Right, and yeah, definitely, it's a dangerous situation when someone is acting in when they're enraged. But I wonder if there's any utility. I'm worried to eliminate that one. I'm trying to think about depression. Would you consider that to be an emotional state that's allowed for me to eliminate?
I will. Yeah.
That one's what
If
utility?
anger is to rage, what sadness
Yes, yeah.
is to depression. Yeah.
That one seems more valuable to eliminate, or less risky to eliminate. I'm struggling to come up with a reason why we would lose something by eliminating.
I can try.
Depression.
There should be maybe depression or natural consequences to like bad choices and internal like it's an internal judgment perhaps that like is saying I am just sad about how I'm operating, and then it could be an incentive to avoid depression. You need to, change your life circumstances and things. I mean, I know that's a probably a narrow angle. I think depression can happen not because of bad life choices, certainly.
Greed, maybe, but greed can be a motivator that, like, if you have one greedy CEO or inventor or whatever, yeah, maybe he accumulates a lot of wealth, but he also creates a lot of stuff that we can use.
He's pushing people in his life
Yeah.
to do more in order to.
Gluttony.
Where's the benefit of rage? Like, is it the threat of for other people go if I wrong him too
Yeah.
much, I'll face some serious consequences, and so I won't all of.
Right, yeah, there's a
Gluttony.
deterrent factor to it, I think. Yeah, I'm thinking, like, imagine your country gets invaded or something like that. Yeah, anger is certainly justified, and it would probably be better for most people to simply be angry and not get enraged. But is there any value in having some of those people be enraged?
Like a collective rage, and to like we're gonna. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, it's a deterrent. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, I guess that's what outrage is collective rage.
Yeah.
Right? Outrage.
yeah. Huh, interesting question. Gluttony, maybe, but I think gluttony might not have. If you eliminated gluttony, there wouldn't be that many adverse effects. But if you eliminated depression, there would be more positive effects than eliminating gluttony, I think.
So gluttony's the safer choice then, if you're trying to cause the least amount of ripples.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but still, I think
But the positive impact of eliminating depression could be
huge.
just
Totally.
huge.
Yeah, huge.
And I'm trying to think of the downside again. Like I said, like but it seems. Look, sadness is still a motive. You want to
Yes.
avoid sadness. You don't need depression to be a deterrent. I don't think.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Maybe humor, so no one could be funnier than me.
No one would care either.
Yeah, I don't know. Is humor even an emotion? I don't think so.
I don't know. I think a lot of these we could be like, wait, is gluttony an emotion? I don't really.
Yeah, I guess it's not. It's probably not an emotion. I'm gonna go with depression. That's gonna be my answer.
And I think you're right that the negative ripple effects of that would be like what minimal. Like some people, I mean, because depressed people are like in a state of like literally depression. Mean like they aren't doing a whole lot anyway. I mean, depressed people are not functioning highly. So removing that, they're just going to function more, and it's just going to have a net positive.
Right.
Unless you have depressed serial killers, too depressed to actually get out of bed and kill
Oh,
people.
no.
Now you've like
Now I've
amped
motivated
up
them.
Yeah. I mean, that is a funny thought, but
That
like
is funny,
people who
but-
operate viciously in the world, but
Even-
depression is like
Even if that
stop.
was the case, I think it would be a net benefit, right? There's a lot of
Yeah.
non-murderers who are
Yeah.
suffering from depression.
Right, more non-murderers than murderers suffer from depression.
Yeah.
All right, next question: is pain tolerance what is pain tolerance really, or is it just kind of like emotional regulation with regard to pain? Like, do adults have higher pain tolerances than children, or are they just more emotionally regulated?
That's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that, so I'm sure that's been researched, but I don't know it. I'll take a stab. I think that it is a combination of personality, experience, and willpower, maybe. So personality-wise, I would imagine if you're conscientious, the personality trait conscientiousness and probably neuroticism would weigh on your pain tolerance. People who are more conscientious are more goal-oriented, and they can see their way to the end of the pain, right? And if you're less neurotic, obviously you're not gonna worry as much about the pain you're experiencing. Whereas if you're highly neurotic, you may think, "Oh no, this is bad," and panic and not be able to tolerate. So
So I'm interesting there. I'm conscientious and neurotic.
right, yeah. So your pain tolerance is probably, they probably cancel out to,
yeah.
to some extent. My pain tolerance is pretty high, but I'm conscientious and not neurotic.
Yeah.
And then what else did I say? Willpower. You could argue that that's bundled up in your personality, but certainly if you have the strong desire to tolerate pain, then you will to some extent. Some people don't have that strong desire. And then experience, like if you've experienced pain before, then you kind of know what to expect. If you're a kid, this fits into the age question you asked. If you're a kid, you don't know, you don't have the experience of pain, right? And so you don't know whether your scraped knee whether that really hurts or whether it's like, getting your teeth pulled kind of hurt, like you can't distinguish exactly. And so you don't know how freaked out to be and how tolerant to be of the pain. So
Yeah. Or the
I would,
longevity of it. Yeah.
yeah, right. I would definitely say that adults have a higher pain tolerance than children. Although you could make the argument that their ignorance, in a way, could make them more tolerant. Like because they don't understand the distinction between a scraped knee and a broken bone. If they happen to break a bone, you could tell them it's not that bad, and they might actually believe it.
So how the adults in your life frame your pain experiences really might in the long run shape your pain tolerance.
Could be, yeah, could be.
I mean, that makes sense, right? The overprotective parent goes, oh no, as soon as
Yeah.
you fall, and kind of elevates. Like I think you grow up to be maybe whinier when you.
Yeah.
What if you're just someone like, okay, you and I, we stub our toes on the same thing with the same force, and we're like, two questions. I think, are we actually having the same experience, and then our treatment of that might, like I might talk about it more and be more potentially curious or sound whiny about it. We might be equally curious about the pain, but I'm more likely to try and precisely articulate the pain. It might be of more interest to me, and I might presume that it's interesting to someone else. It really wouldn't be, by the way, to hear about my big toe pain kind of thing. But yeah. So someone might go, man, Daniel really is like a wimp. He's talking about it so much when
right.
it's not even. That might just be a miscommunication moment, where it's like, no, I'm just weird and talk about every experience I'm having in too much detail. I really think that might happen to some degree.
Yeah,
So.
I could see that happening. Yeah, I don't really know how to answer the question, would we be having the same experience?
Yeah, we'll just never know. I guess measuring pain has always been tough. Even in like when you go to the hospital, they have this scale of 1 to 10 and try to put smiley faces on it, but there's no number. It's just kind of a mysterious. We don't know how much pain people are having, and if someone just goes, I've stubbed my toe and I'm experiencing a 10. I'm telling you, it's a 10. It's the worst. And what are we gonna do?
Right. Like, my grandpa has like joint problems, hip problems, and whatnot. Right now, he's old, very old, and he had to have multiple surgeries and nerve blocks and stuff. And every time he goes to the doctor's office and they ask him, "Okay, how bad does it hurt?" He says either 8 or 10. Those are his two values that he uses, 8 or 10. Even like after the surgery, when it's clear he can get up and walk around and go play golf, whereas before he was just stuck in his recliner, unable to move. He would give the same values both times. And it's like, okay,
that's annoying to me. It's like, I just don't trust your ability to self-assess.
Right.
You're reporting an 8 and you're playing golf. You're reporting a 10 when you were stuck in the recliner. You need to adjust your scale, sir. I mean, seriously, like, I don't know.
That's the problem, right? Like a lot of elderly people don't, people can have ulterior motives, right? Like they want the medications or they want the surgeries or they want to manipulate
They're
whatever.
Not assessing their pain. They're trying to get you to do what they want, to respond to them with urgency or something like that.
Yeah, there's not a good quantitative measure of pain. Like we can't take your blood and go, oh, your pain levels are 42.9. We can't do that. Right. So.
All right, I got 3 more for you.
Okay.
Just a small daily ritual or habit that brings you joy or comfort. I'd like to know one.
Oh, God. All right. Sorry, I can't make my initial knee-jerk joke.
I already know the joke I'm making.
Daily ritual that brings me, joy or peace or something?
Or comfort or, yeah, you just definitely do it, and it definitely is just over a holistic positive.
Calling it a ritual attaches
habit
things
or
that I don't. I mean, I don't know. Like
I'll go
every
with wherever your brain goes though. Like if it's not quite a habit or a ritual, but it just is something you engage in frequently. And one maybe that I wouldn't guess, like your morning poop or something, like
I mean, I
whatever.
do have a
Yeah.
morning poop, and that's nice, but
Yeah.
I don't know that I would. It's not special enough. Lots of people have morning poops, right?
It's yes, I think that's normal. I'm just curious if there's like a Bennett one that like
Not really. I can't think of
yeah.
anything. Nothing real, nothing special.
Yeah, I've been
So,
I don't know what I would say to this question. I mean, I can say I've been doing meditation and I've really enjoyed it and it's almost daily. On the weekends I really slack there. Just because I don't have the routine on the weekends that I do in the
yeah,
week.
I mean, I guess if I would say the closest thing to what you're wanting is, on the weekends, I take a walk around the neighborhood, basically every Saturday and Sunday. Yeah, I don't do it during the week or when the weather isn't appropriate, but yeah, I take a nice, it's about 2 mile walk around the
Why
neighborhood.
do you like walks? I mean, you know what's on the path, you've seen it before.
I
Yeah,
haven't
why do you
seen
like
everything
walking?
before. Different things happen on the walk, small little things. You get to see what's going on in the neighborhood, what's happening in the park. Is it a kid's birthday party? Do they have the bouncy house set up? Are
I
the
really love seeing
the
those. That's what
pickleball
really.
courts, really hopping this time?
Do
No,
you
it's
mean that the
not.
holistic experience is dynamic and it's just
Yeah.
unique to see the world operating and it's really
Yes.
pleasant?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. In the same way, if you're walking through nature, it's just trees and dirt and rocks and maybe some water. What's the big deal? Like, yeah, you can be reductionist. You can be reductionist about it, but it's nice to be out there and see some animals or the birds or just have a peaceful environment. I like to walk because, well, it's exercise, mild exercise. It gives you time to think. We've talked about this before, but I think taking a walk gets your brain firing, right?
Yeah.
It
Move. I think we're
distracts.
designed to move. I
I think
think
so
our
too.
bodies need movement. And so you're giving it like low intensity movement.
Exactly.
So it's just,
Yeah,
it's
your
awesome.
brain is just the right amount of distracted by actually navigating you on the sidewalk or the path or whatever and moving your body that it frees up the rest of your brain to think about whatever. And so I get a lot of productive thinking done while I'm taking those walks. So yeah, it's very pleasant. Do it every weekend when I can.
Two more. You've learned we're in the Matrix or whatever version of this is all a simulation. Do you feel like all your achievements are pointless? Like, are you super upset, or do you quickly get? Well, I'll just let you run with that. Your response to it, other than the shock and wow and whoa and what's the real world actually? Let's can you if you can press pause on those sorts of, I know overwhelming emotions and thoughts you would have, but like how does that frame your current life? Would you just be like, well, dang, it was all pointless? Or would you be like, well, I mean, I still like worked and experienced like growth and had to go through trials and tribulations that were very real. Who cares if it was a matrix?
That's. I think there are a lot of questions I would have to ask to figure out the answer, right?
I
Like,
wasn't very pleased with this question. I
do I
apologize. I
know?
just was like, maybe
So
it'll provide some insights. So.
I know it's Are we assuming the rules like from the movie and the same kind of
For
setup?
simplicity's sake, is yeah, you like someone has revealed the truth to you, and
And
yeah,
do I
you're
have any prospect of escaping?
um, yes. I mean, now we're just
So
kind
right,
of we're
like
leaning into the temptation to like, what's the real world like? You
yeah,
know,
exactly. That's my thing, right? Like I want to know what's real, and yeah, if we have this matrix and this
how about
fate,
everyone you've engaged with is still yeah, you and I, everyone is also in the matrix. So I'm not a robot. I'm not an AI machine. Like I am Daniel. I'm just also in the matrix. So our experience and our friendship is real in the sense that like
yeah,
there was a real bond between it with another human being. We just happened to be like in a blob somewhere else, and this was all
yeah.
some sort of third space reference to the podcast.
That's us. Yeah, like we're talking about some sense of purpose and there is purpose to be gained in self-development, the development of relationships. So even within the matrix, there's some purpose that you can build, right? So I wouldn't be
Yeah.
totally nihilistic and fatalistic about that. However, that said, I always am thinking about waste and efficiency. And if my body is really decaying in some nutritional vat for machines, while I think that I'm building up skills and abilities, that's a waste, right? And so I would want to know, am I ever going to be able to leave the matrix and actually for real make improvements in those areas? And it would be very depressing to know that a lot of the time and effort I've put into building, things has gone to waste.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, to short answer is, I would still value some parts of my life, but yeah, it would be a blow to learn that.
I think I feel very similarly. Like my achievements aren't pointless. It's just more like there's so many questions about, well, how can I how useful were those achievements to my future understanding of the world now that I've learned it's different than I
Think
thought.
about this too. Like, if you have a really good dream, would you rather just never have really good dreams because they weren't real, right? But no, you would still want to have really good dreams. Like that, the
Yeah.
experience of having a good dream is positive in and of itself, even though when you wake up you realize it was not real. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
the experience in the Matrix, yeah, maybe it's not real, but you still have those experiences, even if they're diminished a little bit when you learn the truth.
Yeah. And last but not least, or maybe least, is there a memory from childhood that you have that you can still legitimately get angry about, or like an injustice or something that made you angry at the time that could still linger to this day? And is there a limitation on like injustices causing you, like personal injustices that you like? How long can and should you be angry?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't really have any. Like, I try to clean up my baggage. I don't really have any prior experiences that still make me like, emotionally angry. Even
Right.
like I had a bad experience at work some years back that was unjust, and someone tried to tarnish my reputation and so on. That doesn't make me viscerally angry anymore. Like, obviously, I still recognize it was unjust. I
You
still
don't
rank
have an emotional response attached to that anymore. You
not
really don't.
anymore.
It's just gone.
It's just gone. It's been long
But you can
enough.
still talk about it and get kind of like you can acknowledge it was wild.
Yeah,
I'm
sure. It
sure.
was
Right.
definitely wild, and that person still ranks on around Osama bin Laden on my list of least favorite people. That wasn't from childhood though. That was from adulthood. If I had to pick from childhood, I had a teacher in eighth grade, Miss Ehalt. She was my English teacher in eighth
Oh,
grade.
just name
I'm totally
dropping. Yeah.
totally doxing this bitch. And I in her class, she was not a good teacher. She would write sentences on the board and like they would be grammatically wrong, and I would raise my hand and correct her and say, "Oh, there needs to be a comma right there, Missy Hall." And a good teacher can take that in stride,
Sure.
but she did
You
not.
could even just say, "Nice job, Bennett. You're totally right. I missed that."
Exactly.
Or you
That's
caught what I was setting. You could even, if you're a little more insecure, say, "Yep, you
Yep.
got it. I'll be doing that all year long." And
Here's
see if
a
you catch
Tootsie
it.
Roll. Yeah, that's part of my class gimmick is if you catch a mistake, you get some candy. That kind of thing. She did not take it well. She got mad about it and obviously embarrassed and thought that I was behaving like an arrogant little kid.
Yeah,
Another
challenging her authority.
another thing that happened in that class is we had vocabulary, and our homework every week was to write the vocabulary words like 3 or 5 times each or something. Like mind numbing.
Sorry, that's bad teaching 101.
Bad
kind of
teaching,
thing.
mind-numbing assignment, and we had a vocabulary book with all of the vocabulary words we were going to do for the rest of the year in there, and so I just sat down and did them all at once, so I would never have to
Of
do
course
this.
he did. Of course, little Bennett just said, I'll do the pragmatic, like solve this quickly.
Right,
like,
I'm
get
getting it out of the way because I don't want to do this every week, and I turned them
And
all
you're
in.
doing it correctly, by the way, right?
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
yeah.
I turned them all in at once, and she got really mad and she actually got written up for this. And, I encouraged my parents to have a parent teacher conference with her to say,
You
like, what's,
encouraged your parents? Yeah,
yes,
yeah. 'Cause it's
I
like
said,
she
like,
wrote you up.
she wrote me
for
up
doing.
and like I was getting in trouble, right, for doing my work. And I said, like,
Thrown by this.
I was
In
like, we
what
got to go
world is she
talk.
writing you up? If she had said, "Hey, Bennett, I'm gonna collect this once a week or whatever, and you're gonna have to just hold on to it and submit it once a week,"
That would
I
have
mean,
been
that's the
stupid, but whatever. That makes sense on her grading end,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I can understand that at least. But this was, I got written up for it. Like the same, other kids were getting written up for like getting in fights or, stealing people's lunch or whatever. And I was getting written up for doing my homework in advance. Like it was
And I
ridiculous.
would like to hear her have to articulate that. So why did you write him up? Because he did his vocabulary work earlier than I had planned for him to.
Right. Yeah, you would
Okay,
have
so
to you'd have to ask my parents. Like they still remember that it was my parents and her and the principal of the middle school.
were you in the room?
I was not there. I wasn't present
Okay.
in the meeting. But
Imagine you're
yeah,
the principal and you're just trying to do your job, and now you're having to defend a teacher for the most part. That's your job, is to kind of like,
yeah, my
I mean, not to go against the parents, but try to really get them to see the teacher's side. And now you have to do this. Like, you just can't agree with the teacher here. I don't know what you
no,
do.
yeah,
Just
what? Yeah,
say,
my parents.
yeah.
When they tell the story, they say that the principal was like, "Are you serious?" Like the principal basically sided with them and was like, "Are you serious? Like this isn't a problem."
And I'm being called into a meeting for a kid doing their work. Like,
Right.
I don't have time for this. I will not defend you, teacher. Like, you're going to look bad in a case where you were just causing yourself a headache. Like, she clearly just didn't like you.
No.
There's an emotional component she had towards you.
I mean,
because this
I'm
isn't
trying to.
behavior you do to her. Yeah.
I don't remember.
You know what? I'm mad. I'm still mad. I'm angry.
You're angry about it. You carrying that emotional baggage for me. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I try to think. I don't remember the details of that time, but I'm trying to now rationalize. Okay, what went wrong here? Like was it really that she was threatened or embarrassed because I corrected her comma usage a few times, or like how annoying was I as an eighth grade kid? I don't think I was that annoying because all my other teachers loved me and
Yeah,
she just
yeah.
really did not. But I don't know. Like maybe I could be annoying as a kid. That's for sure. So maybe I
I'm sure there
really
was like a know-it-all element, and if
yeah
you're totally insecure, and also like the first time you did it, I mean, I have a feeling the first time you corrected her, and she didn't react well, that sort of you were like, okay, I'm gonna continue doing it. Oh, it's on. Like, I just see little Bennett being that way.
could
Like,
be could
oh,
be
like the idea of you being frustrated by this is, it like tickled you on some level, and so now all of a sudden you have this troll type interaction with her, but total plausible deniability, and like
right.
that was in your wheelhouse, and she was insecure, getting angry, and all this is sort of unspoken, and neither side is gonna own their. I'm not, well, because you're Kid Bennett, and you're allowed to like see there's a punctuation correct, like you are.
That's what I'm
like
supposed to do.
Of course, Kid Bennett. Yeah, exactly. You're operating like a kid should, and so she's at fault. But I am saying that you were entering into this kind of interesting battle of wills and testing boundaries, all unspoken, and that's the thing, is all this was like a subcurrent that she was not acknowledging, and nor were you, and like, so now she's like trying to get you on doing your work. Very bad move. Just even strategically, it's just a foolish
terrible move.
She could have made your life hell in other ways. She really could have, but this was like dumb, and like, there's just not a bright woman, clearly.
No.
I mean, really, that's what it is.
Probably
It's just
not,
like some
yeah.
limited intellectual capacity there, and was choosing bad ways to try and get at you.
Yep, that's Miss Ehalt for you. That's how she
Yeah.
was. One time later, in like it was 10th or 11th grade, my English teacher was absent for whatever reason. She was sick or on vacation or something, and so we were having a substitute teacher, and in walks Miss Ehalt as the substitute teacher. I don't know if she remembered me. There was no notable interaction there.
A couple of years later, she wouldn't remember you. Man, I
Maybe
guess
maybe she
whatever.
did, maybe she didn't, but she didn't
Was
acknowledge
she
it.
older too? Like, she'd stopped caring about kids long ago, kind of thing, and just did her thing.
She was probably in her 40s or 50s. She wasn't
Okay.
elderly.
I don't know why I pictured like an older lady, like very librarian in her 60s or 70s. Okay. Yeah.
No. Yeah, so anyway, it was strange to see her again after, when you're a kid 3 years, feels like a really long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, true.
And this was in
kinda
high
forgotten
school,
about
right?
her.
It was a different
You're like, oh,
school. She was a middle school
that's
teacher,
true, too.
and
Okay,
this was a
gotcha.
high school
Yeah.
sub, and so it was like,
Weird.
what? But neither of us acknowledged it, and so there wasn't a repeat. It kind of maybe it would have been funny if there was though.
It would have been if she'd written something inappropriate on the board and you would have said something and she turns around.
Oh,
and-
Miss Ehalt, you used
really like
your instead of your.
Well, that was Concision Incision, questions that cut deep and time that's cut short.
It wasn't quite as short as I thought, but
Not that short. It was not concise.
but it was
It
still
was not that deep.
but it was incisive. I
Yes.
thought it was fun. I enjoyed it. I like answering questions. So kudos, even
Nice.
though it took a while. So that's it.
That's it. Goodbye.
Ba-na,
Doo-doo,
ba,
doo-doo,
ba-na,
doo-doo.
ba.